finally handled. Now I can finally go home and get ready to come back for filming Daniel's special again. Wait a second. I'm already in the special. Well, that's not right. I should be on my way home doing the special by now.
I see you.
Did you guys hear that? Guys, please tell me you heard that. Well, I don't think there's anything scary out here. No, stupid tie. Why can't I get up? Oh! Here we go. Ah, thank you. It's a floating Mickey Mouse. A floating Mickey Mouse! Ah!
The filming Daniel.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Now for part 2 of the amazing Filming Daniel special for 6 years. So, since I've already reviewed Lazy Town, let's now talk about another children's television series. This one, though, is more recent. I didn't watch it before, but I watched it for the first time this year. Well, okay, I didn't actually watch it for the first time this year. I saw clips of it many times before. But this year, I watched all the episodes fully and throughout the entire show. It's probably the biggest show in this current day and age that really changed what children's programming can do and how deeply thought out it can encourage every single age demographic to relate to the show and feel more emotions. And that is the preschool cartoon Australian series, Bluey. So the premise of Bluey, for those of you who don't know what it's about, is it takes place in Australia, in a world where everybody is a dog, and it follows a family called the Healers, including father and husband Bandit, mother and wife Chili, and their 2 daughters, the younger daughter Bingo, and the older daughter, as well as our titled character for the show, Bluey. And it follows the Healers as they go through everyday problems. The children go through the realistic natures of life, but all these characters genuinely love each other and genuinely enjoyed playing with each other and supporting each other as a family. This show, I swear, is one of the most wholesome cartoons that I've ever seen in my entire life. And yes, it's supposed to be demographically marked for preschoolers, but the kind of cartoon that Bluey is makes it reach far higher levels than its target demographic and even impresses older audiences. Fun fact, this show has a lot of fan bases full of adults. Yeah, adults are mostly fans of Bluey, and it's not just the children, it's the adults too. Even if they don't have kids, they still watch and love the show, so I'm like, really? I mean, I remember seeing previews of it when it first came out, but I assumed it was just like for children and all that stuff. But no! This show has a fan base full of adults. So I'm like, okay, let's see how this show can feel like it's for all ages, even though it's aimed towards preschoolers. So I watched the entire show, and like I said, it's one of the most wholesome cartoons I've ever seen in my entire life. And I think it really changed the way that I look at some cartoons and some children's programming. And I will describe it as best as I can in this review. The first thing that I say is one of the most pleasing things in this show was the animation style. This animation is one of the greatest. I mean, it's so gorgeous to look at. It's basically like, it has like a kind of a flash animated style, but the flash animation can go to high levels with characters bouncing around and jumping around in their playtime situations, as well as character responses to these characters doing these kind of like over the top and bizarre things. The facial expressions are put together and drawn with sincere honesty, because it helps to make these characters look like they are going through a state of anxiety or depression, or very like shocking, like what is going on in these situations, because the comedy moments help the characters to feel like, okay, that's a bit weird. And I think that the Australian backgrounds that the characters are walking into kind of feels like a bit unique. In fact, whenever there's something going on in the evening with the healers, there's something about the backgrounds of Australia during the evening times that make me feel a bit warm and fuzzy, and it really like taps into the Australian setting, because they have Australian cultures, creatures, features in life like money, cars, and weather, and I thought that the animation made it look like it was fully alive. Like, I bought that was Australia, and the animation did a fantastic job showing that. The voice acting, I think, is fantastic as well, with Dave McCormack and Melanie Zanetti, I think that's how you pronounce her name, as Bandit and Chili. Those actors were clearly given their heart and soul into their performances, delivering every line as human as possible. Dave was mainly known for playing in the band Custard, so he never really had any proper acting experiences before Bluey. But one day they just called him up and say, why not do it for the pilot? And then he did it for the whole show, because he's clearly making the character of Bandit come off as more alive and more natural, to make him come off as a positive role model. I think that Dave McCormack's performance definitely delivered that. And of course, Melanie Zanetti, like, she delivers most of her lines with sincere honesty and human features. Whenever there's like a comedy moment, whenever there's like a moment where she says something funny, or when there's a moment where you can tell that deep down she had some hardships in her life, but is still trying as a great role model for a mother. And she was, and Melanie did a fantastic job bringing it out. I'll say what I think of the actresses for Bingo and Bluey, but I can't exactly say what the actresses are, because the young actors that play these kids don't have any credits. And I think that's a really good thing, because it helps to keep these kids safeguarded without getting recognised or noticed by fans of Bluey, so they'll just come charging at the kids. And they're kids, so of course they all want to be protected. So I think that was a good choice to keep their names like uncredited in the credits. But whoever was the one who did the voices, I thought that those little young actresses did a fantastic job, because they also deliver their lines as human as possible. And if the day comes when they do get their names recognised, I would like to see them in more roles. But for now, I'm perfectly fine with them not getting credited, because we don't want to draw too much attention to the actresses, because they're only children. So I applaud them for that. There's so many like big named actors that sometimes make a cameo or guest appearance, like Rose Byrne, Natalie Portman, and Hamilton himself, Lin-Manuel Miranda. And I was like, wow, these big name actors must have been huge fans of Bluey to want to do this. And honestly, if I become an actor and they give me a chance to appear in an episode, I'll definitely lend a voice to a Bluey character in an episode. Now let's talk about the characters, and I think the most pivotal characters that we should talk about in this review are the healers themselves. Bandit, Chili, Bluey, and Bingo. Let's discuss this iconic Australian dog family, starting off with our title character, Bluey. I think that she was a very interesting child character, because yes, she has the needs of a little girl that would be her age. She's like, what, 6 or 7? I mean, she was 6 and then she turned 7 in the show, and she has the annoying natures that's realistic, but also like innocently likable at the same time. Sure, some people might find her to be annoying, and I can understand that, but I think most people who watch the show, in fact pretty much every single Bluey fan, sees this as realistic child behaviour. And that doesn't take away from the fact that even though she can be annoying to her parents and she can sometimes make a few little like egocentric decisions, at the end of the day she's just a little kid who doesn't know like the bigger picture of what she does, as well as the realistic approaches to life. And as the show goes on, she learns about realistic approaches to life, but also knows how to be herself while also finding a confident level to approach the real world for what it is. And I think that makes her very likeable. The same could be said for Bingo, but Bingo is a bit more naive than Bluey, because not only is she the youngest sister, but she also is the one that can sometimes go through the hardest times, because she seems to have less of a knowledge about what the real world has to do. So whenever her parents are not able to look after her, it's up to Bluey to teach her about the realisms of life whenever she learns them, and be supportive of her as a big sister. And the bond between Bingo and Bluey I thought was handled very well, because it's a realistic sibling relationship. They can bicker with each other, snap at each other, and gradually not talk to each other, but at the end of the day they still love each other as siblings. And there are so many moments where they're going through like some times of like hardships or unfairness that I gotta say are directed with sincere honesty, and I honestly just couldn't help but feel sorry for them. And I would like to entertain them if I were in Bandit and Chili's position. And speaking of Bandit and Chili, let's talk about Bandit and Chili as parents and characters. Both of them have the similar needs to keep their children entertained while also teaching them about social life and moral lessons. But they seem to have different personalities. While Chili has the responsibility of keeping everything in order while also making time for fun, Bandit seems to be a bit more free-ranged and more expressive, and seems to try to be more of the fun parent. Not to say they're both not fun, because honestly they're both fun, but Bandit seems to definitely be giving the most effort, because there are more episodes where he is the one that's playing with the children, and I think that it makes him such a great role model for fathers all over the world. I love the fact that whenever he's like in social company with other adults and with his kids around, he knows his friends so well that he'll just do like these weird things in front of them, but he might either know them well that they'll catch on to the act, or he'll just do it anyway. And some people might find it to be unrealistic, but for me, okay, granted it might be unrealistic, but for me, for the most part, I think it shows the extra work of effort that Bandit puts into making these over-the-top moments of goofiness come off as warnings to the children to approach life in a more realistic way while also keeping their childish dreams alive. It's very admirable. He can do silly things sometimes, and he can make mistakes as a father, but that's easy to forgive because he's just such a charming and lovely dad who just wants the best for his daughters. The same could be said for Chili, because she really puts in effort as a mother, and she makes like a few snappy remarks that I can't help but laugh at. She makes a few quips now and again, and even though she seems to be more responsible for the house and for the playtime games than her husband, she still has her goofy nature, and still has like the warning messages to send her kids. But at the same time, and this is mainly thanks to Bluey fans that have watched the show, there are signs that she may have had some sort of time in her life where she felt a bit down. I won't say anything about what these people were theorizing about Chili's past and her backstory, but these theories I can't help but find so like, wow, I can't believe the show actually hinted of possibly going in that direction. And with this kind of backstory in mind, like a lot of Bluey fans have made the same theories, but with this backstory of Chili in mind, we really read deeper into her character and why she can be restrained sometimes and feels a bit of guilt, but she still puts in the effort to become the best mum possible, as well as a great role model for women who are mothers, and I think that she was fantastic. And when these four are together, they are extraordinary as a family. For some reason, people compared Bluey to the well-known British children's cartoon Peppa Pig, and honestly, I can't see why. It's probably because of like a family of animals, but I think that the healers are a lot more unique whenever they're playing with each other, supporting each other, and even the children can sometimes support their parents when they're going through difficult times. And all these characters are just so lovely together. And honestly, I've kept up with every single episode of Bluey, like in the main series that's aired, and honestly, I'm kind of missing this family. This family became so special for fans all over the world. Now, as for the other characters, there are a lot of characters in this show. and I don't have time to go through all of them, so I'll just go through the names real quick. We have Bandit's brother Stripes, his wife Trixie, and their daughters Muffin and Socks. Muffin is like he has a lot of energy. Like, he has a lot of energy, he has moments where he can be a bit rude and a bit like, "Urgh," but I think it makes for some of the show's most hilarious moments, and the rivalry between Stripes and Bandit is like, literally, if you've seen your father and your uncle go at each other like this, yeah, you definitely seen the show, and you've definitely seen something like this in real life, and that's just funny. We have Bluey's teacher, Calypso, who is a very well done teacher. Much like the parents, she also teaches the kids some moral lessons, and is a good role model for many teachers of like nursery students or daycare students. We have Aunt Frisky and Uncle Brad. Those characters are really well done, and their relationship with each other was fantastic in the amount of episodes we see them in, and they definitely had an ongoing storyline from seasons 2 to 3, which again I won't spoil. Bluey's friends throughout the show were very adorable as well. Bandit's mum was entertaining, but what seems to be some of the most interesting characters in terms of the supporting cast that I've seen in the show, which I was honestly surprised that they surprised me as they did, were the Healer's neighbours, Wendy and her daughter Judo. Now, Judo, I didn't really have too much of like a big shock towards her. I mean, she can be a bit like a little girl that is quite demanding, but she does still play with Bluey and Bingo, and I thought that was fantastically done. But I think it was mainly Wendy who stood out the most to me, because in the first 2 seasons, she seemed to be that like one gag character who was just at her normal life. She's very posh, she's just living the quiet life. And then automatically, Bandit does something funny to entertain his kids. And she's like, what's going on? And that was a one-note joke, but I thought that was fantastically hilarious. But then season 3, she surprisingly had a bit of character development where she plays along with the axe. And I was so surprised that the writers were actually able to have like the idea to give her this kind of character development. I see Wendy in a whole new light, and I'm really surprised that this show managed to do that kind of character development for her, and it makes me appreciate her character more. And I hope she comes back for season 4, because honestly, I really missed the woman. She was very interesting, and she's definitely the most interesting supporting cast in the show. And I have to say, this show definitely goes to some deep levels. Now, when I say deep levels, you might think, oh, is it like just a few emotional moments and teaching moral lessons? No, because many Bluey fans have made the same thing, that this show might actually be going into some dark places, because there are so many realistic approaches to parenting and to child support in this show that I'm honestly surprised that the show went there. And also some things that children might not understand when they're young, but will understand as an adult. Because really, when I say the show is for preschoolers, again, I think the show is aimed towards everybody, because it will have like the energetic nature that kids will understand, but the more adult, more realistic approaches to life that parents will understand because they have been there themselves. And I tell you this right now, there's so many emotional moments in this show that are directed with sincere feelings and intentions of making the audience connect with the healers whenever they're going through like situations, whenever they're going through like sad moments, or when they're going through joyful, uplifting moments where they learn that as long as they support each other and feel the love that the others feels with each other, they can make it through everyday life. And I swear, I did not expect the show to go that deep with it, but I will say, it makes the show so much more special to people all over the world who have families, and to anybody who's like growing from like a little kid to an adult. Say if I grew up with the show in like 2010 or something, I would definitely have a lot of nostalgic attachment to Bluey, and I think that this show is so much more special in that way. And I think that if there was like a course that you would need to study as to how children's programming is made that can also be exceptional by the whole family, I think Bluey would definitely be a topic to study on. I might be saying a lot of the same things that I can, but what is there to say that not everybody has said already? everybody has talked about the deep meanings of Bluey whenever it's like a dark theory of like some past that the parents have, or there's like episodes that actually even show straight up some things that are very hard for children to take in. But I love that they did that because it helps the children to see things in a realistic light, but also giving them the reassurance that everything will be okay. And I think that the show definitely did that very well. And also it is a hilarious show as well. I couldn't stop laughing at it whenever it's Bandit's goofy antics, or the sharp, dry humour and lines that every character would say. And again, it just feels more natural and human in that way. Despite all these characters dogs, they definitely feel like some of the most human characters I've seen in a cartoon series. And honestly guys, I don't think that I can describe much more about what makes the show great, because I definitely urge you to check out the show yourself. I mean, you might think that you're too old to be watching it, but even adult fans say that it's an amazing show, so I'd say give it a watch if you can. Like, watch 1 or 2 episodes, or at least look up some episodes that are definitely the most well received, and then they'll be the ones that will show you what kind of show this is. Because this is an amazing cartoon. It's wholesome, it's lovely, it's very pleasing to look at with the animation, the characters are very relatable, the emotional moments are so sad, especially whenever the music would play behind these moments. Like, the music in emotional moments were fantastic, as well as like the comedic moments. And I honestly cannot wait to see what more they do later on in the series. In fact, I hear that they're possibly making a movie based on Bluey. I think it's hard. I think it's half and half. In one half, okay, a movie like to extend the runtime of like what kind of story it's telling. Hard to say, but again, why not make a movie? Because it would definitely be fantastic. And I hear that maybe Hugh Jackman and Nicole Kidman were interested in providing their voices. I could be wrong, but look on the internet and then you'll find out. Overall, guys, this is honestly one of the greatest cartoons I've seen in a long time, and I'm honestly glad that I watched it and can now be a part of the fan base that every single person who watched this show is. Particularly in the adult fan base, who would recognise the deeper layers that this show wants to explore. And I have to give loads of praise to creator Joe Brum for doing a fantastic job with this show. And that's why I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 stars. It's a masterpiece of its show, and if you haven't seen it yet, or if you're interested in seeing it just to see what everybody's talking about and why adults are praising it, I definitely say you could give it a chance, because it is well deserving of your time, especially if you have kids that want to watch it. I definitely recommend. This is definitely one of the shows that you should show your kids, like in their first couple of years, like say over the age of like 3 or 4. Definitely show the show to your kids, and also just enjoy the show because it's an amazing show. But anyway, guys, what do you think of Bluey? Do you love it? Do you hate it? And what children's TV show do you think is more meaningful and deeper than you expect? Let me know in the comment section below. So, that is the second show and the last show I'll be reviewing. I hope you had a good time, and
I see you.
did you guys hear something?
I see you.
Guys, tell me you heard that. Guys, tell me you can hear that. Hello? Hello? Who's there? I'm warning you. I've got a plastic gun and I'm not afraid to use it. Wait, I just talked about like the low budgetness that could be my weakness. This isn't helping. Well, my editing self can shoot you with this. Shoot. Danta, are you there? Stuart and Danta are gone. They're not answering their phones. I think it's probably best if I call the police.